Welcome everybody to our closing keynote panel for GCAP 2024. Here are the veterans. I actually think this is, certainly since IGEA's been running GCAP, this is a record for the amount of people we've actually had on stage. And we do typically have a bit of a no panel policy, unless it's our idea, and we want to run a panel with veterans, so we make allowances. So look, games is always seen as a really young industry, and everyone is, except for me, I know. But we aren't convinced that people, both within the Australian industry and outside of the industry, are aware of just how many people have been making games for a very long time in Australia. We're quite a mature and experienced sector, and we thought this is a really great way to highlight it and for many of you to hear stories from the experts. So I think here on stage today we probably have more than 250 years of game-making experience.
Justin Ross.
Someone had to say it. And look, for those of us that have been around for a while, there's been lots of storms and lots of chaos and crises to weather. And whilst there might have been different challenges in the past to the current challenges, we thought it'd be great to hear from people who have made it through those storms and those crises. They've survived all the challenges, and what advice can they offer you as an industry? And one person came to mind to moderate. I was going to say this unruly bunch, but I heard him say circus before, so let's say circus. And that's Morgan Jaffit. We know if anyone can get out the good stories and tease out the good advice, it's going to be Morgan. So I will get out of the way and hand over to Morgan.
Okay, no pressure. Let's try and make this great. It's really nice to be here with a group of people who've been here for a long time. When I began in the industry, I remember feeling like I was too old for the studio I was joining, and that I was already past it at the age of 25, just getting into games. And now, at the fresh old age of 27 or something, I don't know. So it's been really wonderful to see the texture and the tone of the industry change as it's grown and evolved, and as all the many people here have come into the fold. I think, the question of what does age and experience have to say that's interesting to youth and interest and eagerness is one I've chewed over a lot. And the great thing about this panel is that I don't have to worry about any of those answers. It's all for them. So what I'd like to do is kick things off by asking each of the panellists to introduce themselves and tell us what was the game that made you want to make better games.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, is this on? No.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it's, oh, good. So I'm Roger Clarke. I am the Managing Director of PlayOn, and I look after the Asia Pacific region for publishing. So I shouldn't even be on the stage because I want to sound the young pretender, but clearly not. I'm just the pretender. So I work in publishing. I don't make games. I have zero creativity except in the realm of helping creatives to take their product to market. But the game, for me, that makes me happy to be in this wonderful industry is Defender.
Mm. That puts a vintage on.
No, it's an emulator version.
I'm Tony Albrecht. Took me a while to remember my name. It's been a long week. What was the question?
Who are you?
Right, we got it. This is going to be a long panel. Tony Albrecht, I'm a principal engineer. Principal engineer at Riot Games. I've been there for about 10 years now. And I think the game that got me into games wasn't so much a game, it was a platform. And that was the Commodore 64. I learnt to program on that, and it was my obsession. But back in those days, you couldn't make a living writing games. So it was something that I came into when I was quite old. So I was 30 when I started in games.
There you go. Ancient.
Yeah. Ancient. So.
Get out.
Hi, I'm Anna Tito. I'm the Studio Technical Director at Panellists North up in Brisbane. What got me into the game? So I kind of have a few, that kind of thing, but probably started with Adventure on the Atari, hence the Atari controller there, followed by Fairy Tale Adventure, which was a Commodore 64 game, and then Zork Nemesis, which was one of the first times that I had seen kind of real-time video overlaid with games. And that was really cool. That for me was like, oh, wow, we can have this kind of real stuff with interactive stuff. That's so cool. So that's kind of where those three are the things that really got me into it.
Hello, I'm Amanda Schofield, Managing and Creative Director for Studio Drydock. So I'm going to answer the question of what got me into the games industry, which is I had played a lot of games, but when Maxis stopped making all those beautiful sim games, Sim Isle and the very questionable Sim Safari and all of those beautiful little snowflakes, I realised that I had to come in so that I could make them instead.
Hello, my name is Naz. I am the studio manager at Riot Games Sydney. What got me into this? So I would say a British game called Chucky Egg, which was, I don't know if it was released worldwide or not, on the BBC Micro, and that just captured my imagination, just the endless, just getting every single thing perfect on that little platform was amazing. Other games in that kind of genre would be Manic Miner and Jet Set Willy, all just amazing, fun experiences, and I was like, wow, I want to be a part of making these things, so that's for me.
Hi everyone, my name is Kim Forrest. I'm the head of studio at Taylah South in Adelaide, represent South Australia. Tony. I actually started in the year 2000 with Tony, who was the old man at Ratbag when I started. Yeah, I know, weirdly, he hasn't changed a bit. I'm a little bit nervous about the a cappella thing, because we didn't rehearse it that well, but we are doing a song at the end. And it's about the games industry from, over the last quarter of a century, so look forward to that. I reckon it's a really unfair question, Morgan, because there's just so many games, but...
You haven't seen the rest of my answer.
Yeah, it's going to get harder, isn't it? Yeah, I think, I had the experience of growing up playing Commodore 64 and things like that, but I think the N64 was... I'm a console kid, and not anymore, obviously, but I was. And the N64 is really the thing that changed the way I thought about it. And then the knowledge that you could actually make video games for a living. And then sort of the desire to sort of belong with the people that I belong with, which I've had the blessing to be able to do for all this time. So, yeah, it was like certain games on there. I think Ocarina was really a thing that made me want to do it. But the people as well, as I started to get into it, I was like, this is where I belong. So, yeah, that's the start of my story.
I'm Liam Esler. I'm the managing director of Summerfall Studios. And I don't think it was actually a specific game for me, but it was modding. So I loved playing video games, but got bored pretty quickly. And so I was playing this series called the Creatures series when I was 11 or 12, and it was an artificial life simulation. And got bored and then discovered I could fuck around with it. And then a couple of years later, I started playing a game called Baldur's Gate 2 and discovered I could fuck around with it. And then started running teams of modders all around the world and quickly realized that I loved that way more than playing a video game, and nothing has changed.
Oh, yes. Hello, my name is Taylah Walker. I'm the Vice President of Original IP at Playside Studios. I've been there for about 8 years now. I think the first few games that I would have played, I had three brothers growing up, and my dad got us into games, and he would play a lot of sports games and car racing games, and I was kind of like, okay, that's fine. And then later on, I played Oblivion, Elder Scrolls, and I was like, oh, I need to make games. That was the one. Before that, it was cars and everything. I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I played Oblivion. I was like, yep, I need to play games.
G'day, I'm Ross from Big Ant. It's Ross Symons from Big Ant Studios. Everything I'm saying is gonna make me seem like really old and underline everything that these guys say about me. But so sadly, my thing was I used to sneak out of my bedroom in Frankston, go down to the pub in my pajamas, which is crazy to think about right now, and go play Pong. Like, a sad tale. But I used to earn so much money from drunk people. So I'd go down there and because it's two-player, you know, there's no AI, right? Bat, ball, 20 cents on the table, and the winner would keep the 20 cents. And sadly, this is going to, like, drumsticks, you know, the ice creams, they were 5 cents. So it was like 20 cents was 4 drumsticks. I used to, and then the real problem of the day was I was young enough that I didn't understand there's no way I can make video games. So I was naive enough to make video games. So it was one of those things where they weren't for sale. You actually typed listings in from magazines, from Byte magazine and those sorts of things, and couldn't afford a computer. So essentially, I would go down to a place that doesn't exist now, Radio Shack, and use a TRS-80 or an XD Sorcerer or one of these old machines in the late 70s. And the only way you could play a video game apart from going to the arcade is you had to write it yourself. So the way I got in was I had to write it bloody self, you know. And the worst part was there was no storage. So you'd write it every bloody week. So you'd go down there, write a game on the Saturday morning. And then, it was only after a little while I realised that I was selling the computer for them. No one knew what a computer was for. They just knew if a kid could do it, anyone can. So
it's I was having a conversation earlier with some of the panellists, and there's a question that I get asked a lot, which is how did you get into the games industry? And I think that's the way I got in is not that interesting, but I think it's often a proxy for the question of like, well, how do I break in? What's my window? How do we get in the door? And what I'd like to ask the panellists, and I'll start on the Ross end this time and swing back, is given everything you know now, if you had to break in today, what would you do?
Well, like when I was doing it, breaking in was if you did it, you were a one-man band. So the great thing is, back in the day, you did everything, and it was great because you controlled it all and you did everything. But the great thing about today is you don't have to do everything. So much scope to work with so many great people and so on. But I think of all the resumes that come across my desk, it's really, really hard. But and it's going to sound really cliched, but you've got to find some way to stand out. Like you've somehow got to stand out. And for me, the standout is passion. So for me, if you find some way, I'm not giving you a good answer here, but you've got to find a way of being able to show passion. Because you'll be surprised how many resumes you get that don't have passion. So just make sure you've got passion and you show passion and you exude passion. The rest can be taught.
I think about this a lot. If I was to start again in the industry, how would I do it? And the way that I think I would get in is by being a QA. So I started as a 3D artist, so I studied art beforehand. Then I, got a job as an artist, and then about 6 months in, I moved into production. So that was a waste of my 2 years studying. But QA, for example, it's the only role at Playside that we don't need any qualifications for. So you don't need to have studied anywhere, you don't need to have worked anywhere. All you need to do is be passionate about games, be somewhat good at games, and be a good person. And so I think that's the easiest way to get in. And once you're in, we have so many people that used to be QA who now do production, who now do design, who do art. And it's such a good way to learn all the areas of game, figure out how everything works, but then also decide, okay, well, what piques my interest the most? Do I want to do art? Do I want to do design? And even the CEO and founder of our company, Playside, started his career as a QA. So it's just such a great way in the door for you to figure out what you want to do and then go from there.
I have two quick answers to this question, one of which is a passionate cop-out and the other of which is more useful. And the passionate cop-out is I don't think this panel is the right people to ask about this question. I think that if you're trying to get into the industry, you talk to people who've just gotten into the industry because they understand. Like I talk to students all the time and they ask me this question all the time, and I'm like, it's so different now, and I don't live in that world, and I'm so removed from that world now, and so I would recommend go talk to this person who just got a job at Playside, or just go talk to this person. The actual answer I would give is be brave, which is a similar kind of thing to be passionate, but putting yourself out there is really scary. Coming to events like GCAP or going to IGEA Melbourne or any of the other events all around Australia is actually incredibly difficult. And I think for those of us who've been around for a while, it's easy to forget just how daunting that is. I remember going to my first meetup in Adelaide and fucking shitting the bed and just I didn't speak to anyone the first 2 times I went. And my partner was like, no, you just have to be persistent and be brave and start a conversation. So that would be my advice. Go to events, be brave, start conversations. That's how you meet people and build friendships. And friendships are a lot of how this industry runs.
I agree with all of the things said on this side of me. Yeah, it's I've got 10 minutes here, so just settle in, man. No, I mean, it's funny because lots of what you said describes how I got in. I started in QA and became a designer, and then moved into production and discovered that like I said before, I was pretty good with people and just getting the best out of people. So I think that helped me a lot, that natural ability to just sort of manipulate. It's not a bad word, it's a good word. Manipulate the situation in my favor. But I think effort is really important, just resilience to the knockbacks and things like that. But yeah, I think it's really, my entry is good luck, timing and hard work sort of thing. So there's no perfect solution. But like Liam said, it's so different now, if you want to come in not in QA, you almost have to have a degree or a diploma or something. That just didn't exist when I started. But you still have to have all the things that these guys have talked about as well.
I disagree with everything you just said. It's all bullshit. No, I think it's be cool. It's be cool. We're keeping the microphone this end now. I think it's different here, right? We talked about this earlier, right? I started in 1996, which was a very long time ago, and was straight out of university and got an engineering degree, rocked up to a place called Signosis where they were giving pizza and interviewing, and I was like, okay, cool, let's just hang out here for a bit. And it was the beginning of PlayStation, so they had the little dinosaur T-Rex thing going on. I was like, this is really cool. That's a different world. You can't just walk into a dev studio now and get a job. But the thing I think is an attribute that is transferable is that idea of being able to showcase why you're exceptional. The passion and dedication and having something at the end of it. I think then having a degree and wanting to be an engineer in the games industry was kind of unique. Most of them were self-taught, and so a very different end of that journey. Now, to a penny, everyone's got a degree, and so how are you going to make yourself exceptional in a sea of people who are pretty good? The degrees and the engineering courses and the games courses, design, there's a lot of really good courses out there, kicking out really good candidates. So what is the thing that makes you exceptional? I do disagree actually with something someone said, which was that we hire a lot of people, and we're looking at people and going, I've only got 3 seconds for that CV. I've got 1,000 CVs to get through. So being able to pick out what makes you exceptional in that first 7 seconds of that CV review, that's a lightning rod. And I think when you see it, you go, whoa, that person has it. They were at the meetups. They're doing modding. They're a part of this scene in a way that rises them and makes them exceptional.
I agree with everything that the panel has said. And so I'm going to continue my tradition of just not answering any of the questions that Morgan asked me and making up my own. So I will look at 2,200 applicants when I'm hiring an entry-level position. So I have a perspective on being on the other side. And I think some of the things you're hearing are terrifying. You need to be better than everyone else. Don't be better, be different. So just find the thing you love. This is the passion. Find the thing you love and do that. Do it over and over and over again until no one's as good as you are at it. Because if I have to look at one more resume with a bunch of guns on it, I'm going to be really upset. So, don't make guns. Show me some resumes that are different to that, because there's someone out there who's looking for your difference, and that's how you stand out.
So I agree with most folks, of course, but a couple of things that I'd like to add. In the Be Brave, remember that we are all awkward goblin nerd folks as well. We are all those weird. We have been. We are you. So going up to someone saying, "Hey," and feeling awkward. It's okay. We feel awkward too. It's totally good. We've just known each other a while, and so we know we feel awkward together. So just remember, we are all awkward nerds together. So that's also one thing. And the other thing is, depending on where you're going or what sort of work you're looking for, they'll be looking for different things. So for something like porting, because it's something that a lot of folks haven't had skills in or haven't have experience in. So we look for way you think. And so really that difference is where coming back to that difference, expressing your difference, showing your difference, showing us, through your doing stuff, what you do, your GitHub if you're a programmer, or your projects that you'll make if you're a designer, showing us your difference, because there will be somewhere that is looking for the way you think. So, do stuff. That's, for me, the most important thing.
Yes. A friend of mine said once, you don't write games for fame or fortune. You write games because you can't do anything else. Right? And yeah, I can't. I couldn't imagine doing anything else than this. But I think if I want to get into the industry today, I'd try and do what I did in the first place, which was drink my way in. But that's networking. It's meeting people. It's finding other goblin nerds.
Is that an Adelaide thing?
Yeah, maybe it's an Adelaide thing. Yeah. But also working hard and following your passion. I had to build engines and write games. It was part of me. So doing that and getting that across in an interview, or meeting up with the owners of a company at a bar and drinking a lot with them, that could also work.
I feel like I've drawn the short straw here. What they said. What they said. You know what? I work in publishing. What the fuck's QA?
Wait, you're supposed to do that for us.
Yeah. What is that?
If you don't know and we don't know.
I got people who know. I don't need to know. You know what? Publishing is exactly the same. There is no one in this room that wants to work in publishing, I'm sure, but what?
I'm so sure.
Maybe. Show of hands. There you go.
Please do.
Told you. But
everybody needs publishers. Well, not everybody. I've self-published a lot, but they're useful.
we get on well. We get on fine, and I like drinking. So look, same criteria. Don't be horrible.
Yeah.
Be a nice person. Work hard. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah. It's really interesting. When I got my first proper professional games job, I remember feeling like I had a lot of answers and that I really knew a lot about games, having come from the world outside. And games was a pretty new field at the time, so in some ways I was right. And I remember after a couple of years in the industry going, holy moly, experience makes a difference. I didn't know what I didn't know, but now I know everything. And 5 years in, roughly the same. I now had worked out the things I didn't know, but I was now convinced I knew all the things. That's never gone away. I'm right there now, right? I think now I do actually know all the things. It's great. So the question I had for the panel, and I'll let Roger start because, of the complaining. But the question I have is what do you know now that only experience could have taught you?
That I don't know everything.
Damn it.
That I think. Yeah. I think if there's something that the last X number of years have taught me, it's that you are better with people around you. And, you know, anyone, I remember I knew everything when I was younger. And the better the people around you, the better your team, the more complementary the skills that those people have, the knowledge they have, the experience that they have, the better the product, the outcome, you know, the game, whatever it happens to be. And I think being open to... it took me a while to learn to listen, you know, because, like I said, I knew everything. And I've come full circle. I now do know everything, like Morgan. But, you know, the fact of it is being open-minded, listening and surrounding yourself with great people, that, for me, is the thing that I think has been a game changer for me.
What was the question?
What lessons have you learned that only experience can teach you?
Yeah, like both of you, I knew everything at the start. I didn't know what I didn't know. I felt like I was a big cog and I could do stuff. And the more I've learned, I've become a smaller and smaller cog. But smaller cogs can actually move big things. So I'm getting lost in this analogy.
A lot of talk, right?
Yeah, a lot of talk. Yeah. But yeah, it's working with people. It's the soft skills that are so important in this industry, and yeah. I don't know.
Whereas I know nothing. I am up here and I am 3 raccoons in a trench coat and no one knows. No, and acknowledging that you don't know and being open and the community of people around you and being okay to say, look, this is like a lot of the stuff we do is at the cutting edge of technology. We're often only a step behind the adult industry in terms of how we use technology. So, you know, we're pushing those boundaries of what we're doing. And so there are people no one knows. So you just have to work it out. So it's about the people who are around you. And our head of studio has a no dickheads rule, and I think that's kind of how it is. You know, surround yourself with good people, and you're comfortable to go, I don't know, and they go, I don't know, and we go, okay, let's work it out together.
Get some more raccoons.
Yeah, more raccoons.
More raccoons.
I think the thing I know enough to do now is be weird. So when I started out, and I was a baby game dev, I questioned everything. I was like, why do we do things this way? This is weird. Why are we doing it this way? Sorry, Tony, wherever you are. Sorry. And when you get older, you kind of lose some of that desire for change and lose some of that questioning everything around you. But you suddenly have enough experience to know that it can change and what the outcome of changing it will be worth. And so now we run our studio weirdly and everybody looks at us funny, but we can do it because we've had the other experience. We've seen how it worked when we did it the other way.
Raccoons in a coat. One thing first, I think imposter syndrome will never leave you. It doesn't matter if you're on a stage with collectively 300 years of experience, what the hell is on stage. You will wake up at night and go, what the fuck am I doing? And why are they giving me this job? And that's okay. That's the little voice in the back of your head. The other thing I would say is that the road is wonky. Like, when you think you're going somewhere, it'll throw you a curveball. There'll be a contraction. There'll be a redundancy. The studio will get closed. Someone will buy you, if you're lucky. And that's kind of okay. And other times you'll just stop and you go, where the fuck have I been? The last decade, I've been in the same job and nothing has happened. But what's happening is that you're building up. You're building up knowledge, experience. You're building up understanding. You're trying to understand where the next piece is. And I got in as an engineer. I wanted to make a game. I was a coder. I wanted to code. I don't code anymore. And I'm not sure I would have predicted where I would be, but I really enjoy what I do. And so it's about following that and understanding, God, it's the journey. Fuck, old people say it all the time, right? It's about the journey. And you go, no, it's not. It's about getting there. I want to get there. It's like, then you're on a stage and you're like, fuck, it was about the journey.
All right, Brenda.
Where's my...
Shit's getting deep.
You didn't pre-drink?
Always. I've been with Tony. Yeah, I think I am but a small town boy, so I started out somewhat naive, I think. But I think the thing that this might be very personal to me, but I think I've gotten better at critically thinking about what's being put in front of me, either the information or maybe the phony person or whatever. Like, I think I've just gotten better at sniffing the bullshit in the air. And I think for me personally, it's taken 25 years to be pretty good at it. And even still, I got a long way to go. So I think that's definitely one thing that just comes with, getting slapped on the wrist enough times where you start to really learn where to trust your gut. And in this job that I'm in now, like, I get to watch people who have like incredibly honed instincts and choose to not have their time wasted, which I think is another good lesson. It's like, if I had advice for anyone, it would be like, figure out what you're hearing and figure out whether it needs your time. You don't need to be rude about it, but you've only got so much time to do things, so be judicious about how you spend it. Is probably the advice I'd give in relation to that. Also, expect the unexpected. Like, I'm sure other industries have this, but in video games, as everyone in this room probably knows, it's an absolutely unpredictable journey. So just be ready. It sort of speaks to everything else, like lots of people have said, like be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because if you want to get out there, you need to just be okay with shit going how you're not expecting it to go. I ride my bike to work. I'm blessed to be able to do that. And I ride thinking like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And when I get done, I'll do this. And I sit at my desk and Slack goes, "You're not doing any of that?" Straight away. So yeah, even daily it's like that.
Two things. The first of which is I used to think that leadership was about being right and making the right calls. And I think that the more experienced I get, the more I realize that leadership is so often about being wrong, and being prepared to be wrong and creating an environment where people can tell me that I'm wrong. I don't know anything, but I've surrounded myself...
And buying coffee.
Oh, I'm buying coffee. I've surrounded myself with incredibly talented people, and my job is to listen to them and let them tell me when I'm wrong and then act on it. I think the other thing is that leadership is also about modeling. As a leader in the industry, even just in our company, I set the standard for behavior for the whole studio. Everyone looks to me, and if I do something, that makes it okay for everyone else to do something. That means I have to work incredibly hard on myself and my own flaws, not just for myself, but also for the whole company. Because if I do something that's out of line, that says that it's okay for everyone else to do it. And that was a really difficult and sobering realization to make for me. Like it was a bit of a journey to get to the point where I was like, yeah, I actually have to work on myself. I have to be the best version of myself. I have to look after myself, because if I don't do those things and I tell the team to do those things, then they're not going to do those things because they're looking at me and I'm not fucking walking the walk.
Everything's been taken. You get to this, so I'm going to go very specific to like something that I have learned, because all the good stuff has been taken. So when I think when I first started in the industry, I was working on smaller projects. There was barely anyone on the team, one or two people, and I just sat there being like, oh, if I had more people, if I had more resources, I would get a better product. It would be done faster. The people is the answer, just more and more resources. You get to a point where that just no longer is true. There is obviously having more people at some point is good, but then it gets to a point where that doesn't just solve your issues. You don't just immediately get a better project because you've got an extra 20 people. You don't immediately get a faster project because you have 20 people. And you'll miss the days where there is a really small team on it and you have such impact on what's being done. You're just one of 5 people or 10 people, and everything that you're doing is big impacts on projects. So I think, early on I was like, I can't wait to have hundreds of people. We're going to make the biggest games in the world, and you don't appreciate how great it is when it is a really small team and how passionate everyone can be on it. That's just a very specific thing for myself.
Yeah, it is the short straw. So I think it's timely, because there's certainly some negativity around our industry in terms of layoffs and all the things that that are going on at the moment. But one thing I've learned is, in trying to predict the future of this industry is really, really difficult. I remember in 1983, 1984, telling everybody that by 1987, we will have written all the games. and 1990 tops. And I don't know what I'm going to do in 1991 because we'll have written all the games. Like they'll all be done. And I think what time has taught me is that this industry is full of bushfires. And from the bushfires comes the regrowth. And in every single cycle and every single circumstance, we come back stronger. And I think we're in that time again. It's a bushfire. It's going to come back stronger. I truly believe that there's more money today than there was yesterday and the day before and the day before. You just got to work out where it is and how you're going to get it.
I think with the journey in mind, there was a lesson I learned somewhere around the middle of my career, which was that people would imagine that roles, particularly leadership roles, were tough and you were having a bad time most of the time. The George Costanza, just look angry and people think you're busy. And I realised how important it was to let people know that I was enjoying the role. 95% of the time I was having a good time. And how important it was to turn to the people around me and say, I like doing this and I like doing this with you. That's why I do it. I've never done any of the roles that I've had from anything other than a sense of I really enjoy doing them. And I wanted to ask the panel, and I'm happy for people to jump in now as you've got things to say. What's the part that gives you joy?
Shipping.
Well, the bit that actually gives me a lot of joy and something I hadn't kind of thought about until I was in a lead role is I actually really, and this is going to sound really weird, so bear with me, I enjoy being the shit shield. Protecting my team from all of the mess that is, and being able to protect them and help them focus and stay focused on what's important, help them deliver. They don't need to know about all the rest. That my job is to be that shit shield, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the fact that I can help them be the best developers they can be, and unblock them and empower them to be the best developers they can be. That for me, I love seeing other people's success. That for me is just yes.
I get to witness Anna being a shit shield from another state quite often. She's very good at it. She really is. Shipping games is definitely the most joyous bit for me. Even though we're trying to do it right now on one of our titles, and it's really hard, but seeing the team pull together on the last, everyone always makes assumption about how easy it's going to be to get that game in the box, but seeing the team pull together and push the last things into the game to get it out is really where I derive the joy. Drinking beers with Tony is another place that I derive joy. But yeah, generally, I don't really get to make games anymore. So just the people part of it and watching people pull together and really, it sounds kind of sappy, but get in the trenches together and just have each other's backs and build a culture around shipping games is where I get the joy, to be honest. Games in the wild. Actually seeing people play your games, for me, is the number one. It's that thing where when you don't expect it and you see someone having fun playing your game. And probably one of the highlights, and I think we can all take some applause or bows for how we help people through COVID, particularly young people that needed to communicate, that perhaps wouldn't want to spend an hour on a Zoom, but they're happy to talk to each other for an hour playing a game. So games in the wild for me is number one. But a close second is this. Traveling around the world, going to conferences, catching up with people that are like-minded and talking about the positivity of what we do.
I think mine is sort of building on those, which is I get to work with the best team in the world. And not only do I get to work with incredible people, I get to help them grow. And what more empowering, incredible thing could you do in your life than to help people grow. And, every now and then that's, in a one-on-one being like, oh, I see something you don't see yet. And being able to kind of gently just point the flashlight a little bit and help them to realize something that they might not have otherwise realized. And sometimes that's having people come and be like, I want to do this thing, and being like, okay, how do we make that work? How do we build that pathway? How do we build the scaffolding? And that for me is just, it's the best.
One thing we implemented recently, we do internal pitching processes at Playside. So it's a new thing over the last couple of years where we allow anyone from the studio to pitch a game. And then because obviously we do a lot of original IP, we could actually take one of those ideas and put it through development. And it's the coolest thing having anyone from any discipline put through a proposal of what they want to make. Because obviously everyone has come up with what game that they would want to make. If they could make anything, what would they make? So having the ability to potentially do some of those ideas is the coolest thing. It's so fun.
Okay, next. Something I think a few people said, seeing your game in the wild. I think I started and it was a box product world. And going into EB and seeing the thing you made in pristine kind of cling wrap on a shelf, and there's like a wall of them there, and going in and just sort of touching it and going, smelling it in a really wholesome way, completely platonic, just touching it, or watching someone buy it and put it in a bag and then following them home. No. That's a little bit weird. And then I think now, kind of, in the age of kind of live service and constant patches and whatnot. Seeing something that the studio's been involved in kind of go into the wild and get blasted on Reddit and loved on Reddit and all the things in between, like just the ability to kind of to taste that reaction and kind of be a part of it, it's just such a magical thing. I think that's that's the thing that gets everyone out of bed. That's the thing that gets you through a tax audit and through like lease fucking negotiations and all the things that we do that aren't connected to making games, but it's the thing that allows the games to be made, and that really feels like a privilege. Like we get to do all this other bullshit just so that we can go out and see a Reddit form. Yeah. Maybe there was another great choice of words.
Yeah, I think along those lines, I remember making a change on League which sped up loading significantly, and seeing a post on Reddit from someone complaining that they could no longer go to the bathroom while the game was loading. And that's great, seeing little things you do ripple out. Seeing the changes that you make ripple out into the world and give people joy is great. And along those lines as well, doing talks at conferences and sharing things that you've learned, or learning things so you can share them, is great. And meeting people and that's and drinking. But I don't need games for that. I can do that without that.
I really get a lot of pleasure out of being people's stepping stones. I think it's been a lot of generations now since you went into one company and that was the one place you stayed. And so seeing people come in to their first ever games job, terrified but excited, and leave these kind of experts who other people, make leads of their projects because they've got all this experience now, and seeing them become the next generation of leaders, I think is just the best feeling.
I think most of what I've heard kind of resonates with me. So I've got the short straw again. But I think certainly EB now, everything's a trade-in or a triple extra small T-shirt. So this whole new game thing, I don't get that. But, the thing that I really love most about my job, there are two things. The first one is laughter in the office. I fucking hate workplaces that are like libraries. I hate it where, you go to visit a company or whatever and everyone's head down and just feels wrong. And I take joy, which was your word, I take joy in the fact that I work with a team where there's a lot of laughter. And that, to me, I love that. I want to work in a place that I enjoy, and hopefully the things that I enjoy, everyone else enjoys. And one of the the ways that manifests in I think the most overt way is laughter, and I love that. The second thing I love is when people ask you what they do, or what you do rather, and you say, I work in the games industry, and they go, wow. That, because you know what, you've got collectively 783 years just with Naz.
How long has this panel been going on?
But you know, you've got a bunch of experienced people. I wouldn't say veterans, but experienced people on the stage. But sometimes I think we all forget how privileged we are. You know, we work in an industry that, you know, my son, from the age of kind of 9 through 14, thought I was the coolest dad. Things have clearly moved on. But all that said, we're so privileged, and sometimes we forget. And, you know, Ross's point about, you know, where the industry's at and the challenges we face, yeah, it's a tough time at the moment, but we will come back stronger. And the thing that I think is always critical to remember is we're privileged. We're in a place, we're in a community that most people, many people, would be so happy to be part of where we are. And that, I think, is, I love that.
I've got one quick comment. You said about, you know, being asked, what do you do, right? This happened to me once, and the guy asked me, and I told him, I write games. Oh, that's the coolest job I've ever heard of. He was a trapeze artist.
My son sat me down at the age of about 6 to say, hey, Dad, you make games, which is cool, but I've looked at the App Store and there's a lot of games. Could you make cars? I'd like a car. So, you know, it doesn't always work out okay. I thought Liam raised a really good point for the kind of penultimate question here, which is about helping other people grow. And I'm really interested in hearing from the panel how you've grown along the road, along the 962 years of combined experience.
I think the biggest thing for me was you start off thinking you know everything. Like you know everything. And the journey. The journey is about realising how little you know. And hopefully somewhere along the line you find someone, a mentor, a coach, a confidant, who calls you out on your bullshit and is the person who goes, hang on, this is what needs to be happening. Why is this not happening? And I think that's one of the biggest learnings for me was, if I'd have found that person earlier, I would have been less of a dickhead earlier. And hopefully less than I am now. And that's the thing I would advise everyone. Find someone who is not going to be the person who mollycoddles you and says everything's great, but calls you out on your bullshit. And that's the mentor or the coach you'd find. And he may not be in your office, it may not be in your industry, but there will be someone. There'll be someone near you, and you just need to go and reach out to them and find them and go, hey, I need this. And maybe that'll change in the stage of your career. But I didn't find that person early enough, and I think I regret that, because the journey might have been more interesting and less bullshitty.
Can't disagree with that. And I think the other thing that's important is that as you go kind of on your journey, which is really specific and really different and is not going to be the same as anyone that's sat on the stage, your experience will be your own. The first thing I'd say is recognise your value. Someone said, you know, do it over and over and over again until, you know, you're the best at it. But recognise your value. You bring something unique to the table. The other thing that has taken me, and I still don't always do it, but it's taken me a while to get to, is because I recognise what I'm good at and my self-worth is okay, I'm really happy to say, I don't know. Don't be scared to say, I don't know. Because when you say I don't know, you open yourself up. It's kind of an admission of vulnerability, and you open yourself up to people. And you can frame it up in any way you like. You can talk about being authentic. You can talk about bringing people with you because you're being on it. But if you open yourself up by saying I don't know, people will help you. People will support you. People will want to work with you. So it can be really hard and I remember when I was younger and less experienced. But it can be really hard to say that. But learning to be honest and to say, you know what, I'm okay with what I can do, and I'm okay to talk about what I can't, because I think people respond to that in a really positive way.
I think for me, learning that managers and mentors are not infallible. They're just people like everyone else. And so they'll often ask you to do things that might not be the best way to solve the problem. So I spent a good chunk of my career trying to be incredible at my job by changing my personality. And what I learned to do was to find out what business outcome needed to change, and then figure out how to do it my way, instead of doing what I was being asked to do, which is, you know, be more outspoken, be less outspoken, be more aggressive or more passive, or, you know, whatever it is, just find the business outcome that you're trying to change and do that instead.
As a chronic people pleaser for most of my life and still today, I think that led me to a bunch of situations where I found myself doing things that I ethically didn't agree with. That I struggled with, because I was like, well, I want to, you know, I'll tell a white lie here, or I'll do this thing because it will make this person like me more. And it took me a long time to kind of realize that, similar to bring it back to what Clara said in her keynote, it's like, nice isn't kind. And, you know, after 15 years making games, you know, I'm now in the point of my career where I'm like, actually, I value honesty and loving brutality way more than like niceness and politeness. And it took me a long time to realize how much of a people pleaser I was, how damaging that could be for myself and the people around me. It was a complicated journey, and I'm very grateful to have come to that realization now, and to be like, yeah, like actually that's bad, and I need to be better at being honest and having honest conversations both with myself and with the people around me.
One thing, and this is probably a very sort of personal experience to me, is that no matter how much you love what you do, it is not worth sacrificing your health and your mental well-being. I went through a fairly hideous crunch period in the US, which ended up with my spine exploding. And, well, this is one of those beers and tell your story later kind of situations. But, you know, you kind of go to the point, was that game worth me losing my ability to walk? No. So if there's one thing I can, you know, think about that, make sure you look after yourself, because you are the most important resource. You, your family, your relationships. You know, we love what we do, but we don't want to kill ourselves doing it.
It can be hard to recognise that you're in that place, though.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm terrible at it. I have them telling me, you take time off. Okay.
Yeah, going back to what Rod said about valuing yourself, I think I've gotten better at that over the years, but I also still struggle with it every now and then. But literally almost everyone that I work with or have worked with, I think, has undervalued themselves. It's a human trait to sort of be unkind to yourself, and I think I see a lot of that. But, you know, we do get to travel around the world a lot, and the more I've done that and talked to people in different companies, the more I've learned and grown into this idea that they're not doing it better everywhere else. Like, it's easy to fall into the trap of like, I'm going to name check some companies here. This is completely arbitrary, but like, Supercell are doing it so well, or Microsoft are doing it so well, and they're not. They're just doing it different. Some of them are doing it terribly. None of those ones that I mentioned. They both do it great. What I just said then was not related to the companies that I name checked. This is not going on the internet, is it? Yeah, but I think it's easy to talk yourself into like, oh, they're doing it so much better over there, they're doing it so much better over here. And it's probably just not true. So just like, you know, I think I've grown into this place where it's like, we need to figure out how we are good at this. and that goes back to lots of stuff that's been said about, you know, going in, asking questions. I think the ability to say, I don't know, especially talking to what Liam was saying earlier in terms of leadership, as soon as one of the technical leader in the room or the production leader in the room says, I don't know the answer to that, it makes everyone in the room go, oh, thank God. I can stop pretending I know everything. So, and that creates a culture of progress in my mind, which is something that I've had to grow into as well. Because it can be embarrassing to not know something, but it's fine because no one else does either.
I'm really conscious of time, and it's interesting. One of the themes there for me has always been that, you know, any sort of growth is uncomfortable. And discomfort isn't the whole story. I want to wrap things up with the big question, which is like, what are you most excited about now?
Going to the pub.
Nice.
The end of Wednesday. AI. The end. Look, I just thought I'd throw it out there and get a laugh. I'll say anything for a laugh.
I think the changing face of the industry. I think that one thing that I'm always excited about every Games Week is to be like, oh, thank God it's not me anymore. And I'm, because at one point I was the baby, and being like, and looking up at these people, and every year it's like, oh, the progression of faces and the change of things. It's like there's been a lot of talk. Sorry to call people on this panel out. There's been a lot of talk for alcohol on this panel, and I want to call that out. It's like, I would never talk about that or do that. And that's a huge cultural difference between like my generation and the generation of some other people on this panel.
Oh, shots fired!
And that's not to say that that's a bad or negative thing, right? But there's been a huge shift. And there continues to be a huge shift. There's always a huge shift.
Towards Class A drugs.
The coke in the bathroom is for another conversation. No, it's really about the constant change and accepting that constant change, accepting that, yes, it's always uncomfortable. There's a cyclical element to this where it sucks a lot of the time, but we do it because we're driven to do it. And we need to be careful not to be exploited, but there is a joy in that as well, and I'm always excited for what's next.
Yeah, I think it's disruptions. Like there are constant things that change that you do not see coming, like the iPhone. You know, that was a massive change, and we're not going to necessarily see what the next change is before it hits us, and it's our job. And it's our joy, I think, as well, to adapt to the next new thing and to embrace it and to make it fun. And I don't know what that is yet, but when it happens, it's going to be great.
I'm excited to see what you'll make, because realistically, we've been here for a while and we're trying to do things and shift things, but I'm excited to see how you guys change the industry. I'm excited to see how you folks do it. I'm excited to see what new and interesting things and approaches and different things that you all try, because that's shifting it, that's changing it, that's exciting. So I'm excited to see what you all do.
Well, my background is film and TV. I worked for Warner Brothers for 20 years, and I worked in distribution mainly rather than content creation, and saw, if you think about where we are as an industry and the pivot to digital, as well as that kind of push towards subscription models and the changing nature of our business, the one thing that I would say that I'm excited to see is very much what you all do, because the one constant when you think about taking creative product to market is the IP, is the work. It's not the delivery method. Think about black and white films, think about talkies, think about the advent of TV and then colour TV, Betamax, VHS for people on the stage. You know, the thing that's the constant, the thing that is the constant is the creativity and the IP, and that's going to come from this room. And I'm excited to see what you all do, because it won't be me.
We're going to be dead by then, aren't we?
Do you know what I'm excited about? The fact that I'm still fucking here.
So just before everyone dies as well, because we're over time, I think on that, like, when we think about technology and what's available, the democratization of that tech stack, the Unreals, whatever, there are so many ways to express some of these experiences now. I think that's super exciting. It's like the entry point is now so available that we're seeing so many amazing ideas come through, and you're not blocked by not having an engine or not having a software engineer or whatever it is. You can be a creative and you can be pushing out ideas, your idea, your amazing idea to thousands of millions of people, and that's super exciting. And I think it's scary because it also potentially kind of floods the market with a whole bunch of things that are a bit crap. But amongst all of that, there's going to be so many amazing experiences in genres that were never even conceived, back in the 70s or 80s, whatever, when we thought we'd made every game by then. I think that's super exciting. I think, we will be dead by then. And so that's totally fine.
Well, some of us, maybe not.
It feels really personal.
If we carry on drinking like some of the panel members, we will be.
Leah will be dancing in our graves, but it's super exciting. I think that's amazing. The other thing I think is the gaming as a meaningful life pursuit. The idea of gaming, esports, movies about games being legitimately amazing and not just some weird shitty spin-off. That's amazing for us to be there already. And where does that go? Like, it's normalized to a way that, in some ways, it's kind of bad because getting into games was pretty punk rock. It was like, you get into games? What the fuck? Who makes games? And like now, everyone makes games, and you can get a mortgage as a game maker, and it's totally fine. So that's legitimization. It's kind of lost some of the punk rockness, but I think that's also amazing that it's in the DNA of culture now. Like, it's everywhere, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to, given time,
to end,
to wrap up. And I think that's what this panel's all about. When we started in the industry, the oldest people we could talk to were the 30-year-olds in the room, and that's not true anymore. It is an ecosystem. There are entire businesses around supporting game development. There are like 26,000 years of experience that we can put on this stage and draw upon. And there are networks and there are people who've been there before. So wherever you are, I just want to say how welcome you are inside the tent and how much you are an important part of all of this and everything we're doing. Please thank the panel who have done a remarkable job. And, oh yes, and now we sing.
Now we sing.
Raylene, did you? Yeah, let's.
It'll take us a while to run off stage.
Yeah, we need to unpack.
You are dismissed. Thank you, team. And I just want to shout out to Morgan too. Thanks, Morgan, for running that and keeping the people under control. You did an awesome job as predicted. And evidently none of us are very good at maths either, because somehow we went from 250 years to 147 years. I am not going to keep you very long. I didn't introduce myself before, but for those that don't know me, I'm Raylene Knowles. I'm the COO at IGEA. That keynote probably should have been 2 hours long. It was great. It was funny. It was everything we wanted. So thank you so much for your participation and generosity in sharing your advice and your perspective and your jokes and not your singing. I think we'll probably do a part B in 2025, Sav. So I'm going to keep it brief. I've got a lot of thank yous to wrap up GCAP. So firstly, to all of the sponsors of GCAP this year, thank you so much for your support and helping us deliver this event. Shout out to Creative Victoria, Screen Australia, X-Solar, EA Fire Monkeys, Big Ant, City of Melbourne, Hipster Wales, Screen Queensland, Sledgehammer Games, Vic Screen, City of Port Phillip, the South Australian Government, LDB, Metrics Computers, NBN, Playside Studios, Screen New South Wales, Screen Tasmania, Ultimate Studios, Unreal Engine, Cam Rogers Legal, Gameloft, Paragon Interactive, Riot Games and Screen West. So thank you to all of you for supporting this. Thank you to all of our attendees for showing up to GCAP and for also a lot of the contribution and advice you give us, our team, IGEA, along the way, whether that be through completing your feedback survey tomorrow or the times you stop us in the corridors and tell us what you're thinking of the event, good, bad or indifferent. IGEA is a really small team and they work really hard. They work really hard on a lot of activities and they work really hard on this conference to ensure that's a great experience for all of you. We want you all to walk away with something tangible, whether it's a new skill, some new knowledge, or just a new business connection or a new friend. And when we're curating the conference and building it all, we really have your interests at heart that we can deliver that experience to you. We also bring in a lot of experts along the way to help us curate the conference and shape that conference, and we'll do so again this year. So please fill out your survey when it comes around, and thanks to the people behind the scenes. Like, we have a panel of about 30 or 40 people that help with the talk selections and things like that, and we're really, really grateful. Big thanks to Sav. Sav manages lots of things, not just at GCAP but also at IGEA, but he, particularly when it comes to content, he manages that whole process, and he rescues and he wrangles and he wrangles and he rescues, and we were having changes all the time.
And very irritating.
So we can deliver a compelling schedule. And like I said, he's doing that amongst many other, not just GCAP tasks, but IGEA tasks. Molly's not in the room at the moment, but Molly is fantastic and has also been a huge contributor to GCAP. She's also delivered 1 million tasks, and she's over at the forum now getting ready for the AGDAs, and it's her first chance to produce that event too. So
Can we get a round of applause?
It will be great. Big shout out to Molly.
I'll show her the recordings later.
And this year we also had Ruby work with us casually, Ruby Devlin. Ruby's been a volunteer at GCAP many a time, and she's made a great contribution to our team and done so much of the back-end work that's made our lives so much easier. So I'm so grateful to work with these excellent humans on a daily basis, and not just on GCAP, but on so many other different initiatives and programs. At IGEA, we really need to thank our board and our members for believing in GCAP and the AGDAs and supporting us when it's needed, and allowing us to deliver on our pillars, which are to advocate, create, to educate and to celebrate. So tonight, speaking of celebration, we've got the AGDAs. Bring your GCAP passes. The pink strip means you can come to the AGDAs as well, and join with us to celebrate all of the talented teams and individuals who are doing amazing things for our industry. So once Sav's done his bit, you can go home, you can get red carpet ready, and we'll see you about 6:30 p.m. to celebrate.
I won't keep you much longer. I just wanted to also shout out Molly and Ruby for their hard work this year. We've kind of been rearranging how we're doing things at the same time as trying new things. And every year at GCAP, we try and do something just a little bit different to see if you like it. So please do let us know if you don't, or you do, or you want something different. We're always very open to feedback, and I can't do anything if I don't know anything. Somebody who did not get thanked is Raylene. So big round hand. Yeah, she was up there before. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to Raylene as well, because, while I am running around wrangling and bothering people as well, I am almost every day, about every 5 minutes, calling Rails going, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I do this? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do this instead, and driving her absolutely nuts. So she does oversee pretty much all of our work at GCAP and the actors, and has done a phenomenal job wrangling us as we wrangle other people. So thank you to Raylene. And a big thank you to Ron, who I see over there, who is looking oh so sweet in the second row. Very little would get done at IGEA if we did not have our CEO, Ron, wrangling us all as well. He does about 1 million things and gets thanked for maybe 2 of them every year. So I wanted to just have a quick shout out to Ron. Thank you all. And a quick thank you to all of my speakers as well. GCAP wouldn't exist if people didn't come and speak about things. So thank you so much for all of your expertise. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge and your visions for the future as well. And I hope to see every single one of you at the actors looking your best. I will be on the front door, so please say hi to me as you go past. And thank you so much for GCAP 2024.